Hey, my name is Ken Andrews. I'm a recording and mixing engineer. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a really cool new plugin from Waves called Studio Rack. And the preset we're going to be looking at today is something I came up with called Beef the Bottom and Flange the Top. Let's dive into that. One of the things I really love about this plugin is that you can split the spectrum up by frequency. In this preset, I've created 4 bands: low, mid, and high. I'm initially attracted to it for drums. They have a huge frequency range from really low to really high. And the idea of being able to chop that up and treat those different spectral sections with different modulation, different levels of distortion, different levels of dynamic and compression and saturation. It's just like, wow. It's kind of a rethink on what can be done with digital tools. Okay, so here is Studio Rack in bypass. And here it comes on. I love flange. I've always loved flange. I used a lot of flange on guitar. And there's been a few times in the studio where we've wanted to flange either the whole mix or maybe the drum kit for a fill or something like that. And we've done that and it's great, but there's something that happens, like when you turn it on, it's awesome and you're like, yes, this is so cool. But then when you turn it off, it's a little bit of a letdown. I've always wondered if there was a way to flange a drum kit in a way that was more subtle, basically, where like the flanging is happening all the time, but it's not demanding your attention. And then when I saw the Studio Rack, I was like, oh, wait a second, we can just flange the top end and you can pick your crossover point, which is amazing because you can really control what part of the spectrum is getting flanged. And I think you can see here that I've picked 5.2K. I'm getting a lot. For instance, this split right here between bands 3 and 4 is like, high mids and highs. And I'm only flanging the highs. I'm basically just kind of trying to leave the body of the drum kit untouched with the flanging, because sometimes flanging in the lower area gets really, depending on where you are in the arc of the flange, it can get really boomy or it can kind of go away and you lose the solidity of your low end. So that's the basic concept of what I'm doing here, is beefing up the bottom and flanging the top, which is what I've called the preset. Okay, so maybe I'll just turn off the plugins for a second and we could just hear where I'm doing the split. Let's just solo the individual bands. And that's 172 and lower. And the only thing I'm doing here is just saturating it a little bit just to beef up the bottom a little bit more with the Abbey Road saturator. And I'm not really doing anything too different from the default position of the parameters, except I played with the blend. It's adding some sub and just kind of giving an extra dimension to the bottom end. I just knew I wanted some kind of saturator and I didn't want it to be fizzy. I wanted it to kind of dark and not get too toppy. Now, this is the low-mid band where you get a lot of the kind of impact of the drum hits, the thwack or the tone or the body, as some people say. I just thought I would try to emphasize the attack of the drums in this region a little bit, nothing too crazy. I'm just doing a little bit of trans X here. And I'm doing a dip at 500, so it's not as honky. In the high mids, I'm doing a little bit more. I'm distorting them a little bit. I visualize this as like a guitar pedal distortion with a lot more control. And then what's happening here, I just wanted a little bit of doubling effect and a little bit of splashiness on the snare and hi-hat. So I'm mostly using the doubler here. It's almost like another kind of flange, but it's way more subtle. It's bringing out a lot of intensity, which is why I'm dropping it 7 dB in volume, this band, against the other bands. And then the top end. I'm doing some pretty extreme stuff on that. I'm using Metaflanger. If you were on that in the low end, it would get very pinched and you would lose that sort of thumpy bottom. But this way, it kind of adds interest to the top of the drum kit, but in the track, it kind of maintains its place without jumping out or going away too much. And then just to even bring out that even more, I use this plugin so much. You know, when you just want to make something brighter in a kind of dramatic, crunchy way. I've used this unit in the analog world for many years, and it's not super pretty, you know. It can get harsh very fast, but that's what's cool about it. You don't go to it for like a really subtle, glassy 16K subtle boost. It's like you're going for something to really excite and be kind of dramatic in for what you're trying to do. I can sort of hear someone saying, well, couldn't you just flange the hi-hat? And you can, but there's a certain level of phase coherence that you retain by doing it on the whole drum kit as a whole. This is the kind of plugin that I would go to if I felt like there was a section in a song that needed something, that was just laying a little flat, and I wanted to have a quote-unquote production moment. I built this preset to go on the drum bus, or if you were mixing from stems, which is something I actually do all the time. Like one thing you could do with this stem that could be cool is you might do something like this, where you have the studio rack in bypass here, but it's on in the chorus. That's a cool lift, actually. Actually, what would be cool is to put it, have the fill be flanged right there. I'll bump that down too to the studio rack track. So you can do some pretty wild stuff, really. This plugin encourages experimentation. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a new way of looking at breaking up the audio, but like you can do a lot of interesting experiments that you can't do with any other plugin that I know of. So my name is Ken Andrews, and I want to thank you guys for watching this video. The preset that we've been discussing is going to be available free to download. Link in the description of this video. And if you've enjoyed this video today, you might want to check out my channel. It's just under my name, Ken Andrews, so check me out on YouTube.